Of this bulletin is George Queenin, and we are live on Facebook, is TV3 Ghana, and on DSTV channel 279. Coming up this afternoon, President John Dramani Mahama reiterates the need for domestic resource mobilization to support education. And soldiers in Benin have announced on national TV that they have ousted President Patrice Talon and seized power. Well, we have details of these and many more coming up in the next 60 minutes if you spend your time with me. Remember, you can get interactive with us. We are live on Facebook, it's TV3 Ghana. Let's begin from here. Soldiers in Benin have announced on national TV that they have ousted President Patrice Talon and seized power. A message from the French embassy in Benin said jam fire had been reported near the residence of the president in the main city of Cotonou. The soldiers also announced a suspension of the constitution, the closure of all land borders, as well as the country's airspace. According to their statement, Lieutenant Colonel Tigri Pascal will be leading a military transition council. They justify their actions by criticizing President Talon's management of the country. Talon, 67, is due to step down next year after completing his second term in office, with elections scheduled for April. In recent years, there's been several coups in West Africa, including in Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, and Niger, heightening fears that the security of the region could worsen. Well, let's extensively stay on this very matter and engage a security consultant, Richard Kumado. Richard, good afternoon. And this is the second coup in West Africa in less than a month. There earlier on in Guinea-Bissau, what immediate security implications that this development pose for Ghana and the wider West African sub-region?
Definitely for Ghana, those who manage our security architecture are aware that aside from terrorism, military takeover and coup d'etat are the major threats that faces the country. And that is why the managers of the security governance in this country have been determined that political governance must always be equal to security governance. And where the pendulum swings in a manner that do not create equilibrium, they work very hard at it to ensure that they bring themselves to a level where political governance will always be equal to security governance. What has happened within West Africa predominantly is that political security and security governance has always not been at par with one another, coupled with the fact that you have poor governance and poor leadership across the country. We are not surprised that we are hearing many of these coup d'etats and military takeover across West Africa. These are signs on the wall, and everybody knows it. Everybody who watches the space is aware that Benin was just on the line, and we did not just know when is it going to happen. So waking up this morning to hear military announcements of a military takeover, a blown-out coup d'etat, I wasn't surprised at all.
Okay, so Benin has historically been considered relatively stable compared to recent coup-affected neighbors. What, in your view, might have contributed to this very sudden upheaval, and were there warning signs the region may have overlooked?
Yeah, it was a political leadership failure. There were serious critical issues they failed to address, coupled with the fact that the politicians at the helm of affairs have created a coup d'etat themselves by changing the constitution without national consensus. You can amend the constitution with a national consensus. In their case, they did it without national consensus. And any activity, any situation, any event that is an affront to the existing constitution is a coup d'etat. So if you want to go by the basic definition of a coup d'etat, it is a political leadership that created the coup d'etat in the first place. And they also created an avenue and created the vulnerabilities for which the soldiers have exploited. And that is why we say that coups are not things you wish away or you wish for. But when the environment becomes conducive and those who want to make the coup d'etat, their motivation is higher than those who want to stop it. It can happen anywhere, anytime. Okay. In Benin, predominantly, political leadership became a problem. political governance became disjointed, and there were too many divisions among the political class. And both opposition and those in leadership were at loggerheads with one another, created all manner of situations that forced the military to come in. So that is what they are. They need to have themselves to blame. We are hearing that they have fueled the coup. Even if they succeed in fueling it, it's a warning to many of the West African leaders that coup d'etat remains one of our major threats. And until we are able to resolve it through good governance, through good political leadership, and making sure that political leadership will always be equal to security leadership, we will always have difficulties in governance and in maintaining democracy.
Okay, Richard, let's talk about the economic community of West African states. How might this new coup further impact ECOWAS credibility, given its recent challenges in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Guinea, and what realistic options remain available for the bloc?
Yeah, ECOWAS is a dead organization. They only exist on paper. My understanding is that President Mahama, who wants to leave a legacy in that regard, is doing everything possible to make sure that ECOWAS begins to work again. And how will it work? Providing leadership and making sure that the very things that broke the back of the camel, which is ECOWAS, they fix them. So if you remember, he has an overture to the Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger guys who want to bring them back into the fold. He has also made several attempts to speak to governance and political leaders across Africa in general, and making sure that West Africa puts herself in a position that will ensure that governance dominates and political leadership entrenches. And so that is done, he's going to have a very tough time bringing these leaders who have divergent views and they are not willing and able to come to terms with what he's talking about. So I can understand the effort President Mahama is putting in, but until he has other leaders coming to the table with him, believing in the same thing, I want to make sure that democracy is the way and political governance is sustained, we are going to have many of these decisions that will go against democracy and that will go against policies in our country.
Before you take leave of us, let's look at the northern parts of Benin, which have had their fair share of insurgent attacks with this very coup. And so would this coup not complicate the issue?
Definitely, yes. You see, I lead a team called Democracy and Governance Risk. And for the past 6 years, we have given warning and red alert to many of the things that would have led to military takeover. You are not entirely wrong to say that coup d'etats and military takeovers are the same, but there's a distinct difference. When you look at Niger, it was military takeover. Guinea-Bissau, military takeover. When you look at Guinea and Gabon, military takeover. When you look at Burkina Faso, Mali, it was a coup d'etat. What we are hearing in Benin is also a typical of a coup d'etat. And there are reasons where you will have a coup d'etat full-blown, and there are circumstances where you will have a military takeover. Until they study these things and they understand the geopolitical arena we find ourselves in West Africa, the northern part predominantly is going to have many of these troubles we are talking about. And to the extent that we live within Francophone countries who will begin to have these levels of instability that is leading to military takeover and coup d'etat, I want to believe that our security watchers and the gatekeepers in Ghana will never give sleep to their eyes, and they will want to work 24/7 to ensure that our democracy is maintained and our governance is sustained, because that is the only way to go.
It's always a pleasure engaging you on your expertise on this very matter. So we'll surely come back to you if there's any update. Richard Kumador is a security consultant sharing his views on the recent Benin coup d'etat. And away from that, this year's West African Senior High School Certificate Examination WASSCE performance has reignited calls for a relook at the country's education system. Experts warn that the continued neglect of basic education is threatening the foundation of learning and students' preparedness for examinations. This report provides more details.
This year's West African Senior School Certificate Examination, WASSCE, field recorded a marked decline, with core mathematics suffering the sharpest drop in performance. A1 to 66 passes fell from 305,132 in 2024 to 209,068 in 2025, representing a decline of more than 96,000 passes. With a pass rate of just 48.73%, more than half of the candidates failed to secure the grades required for tertiary education. Dr. Angela Tebri has a PhD in mathematics from the University of Glasgow and explains why more than half of the candidates that wrote this year's core maths paper may have failed.
You saw how I solved the problem. Now, when you see a problem, you don't need to have seen it before to be able to solve it. You should be able to put on your problem-solving skills. So you have a big problem, put it into small pieces. Now, based on what you know from your previous learnings on the small pieces, you solve those small pieces, then you put the puzzle together to get your solution. And that's where the challenge is. So one of the comments from the Chief Examiner's report was the inability of candidates to convert word problems into mathematical formulations.
The Pre-Tertiary Teachers Association of Ghana has also been explaining what may have led to this year's performance. Adukwe Ayikwe Awole is Vice President, Pre-Tertiary Teachers Association of Ghana.
This year, for instance, first years have already gone to school. So you could see that we are closing the gap. Formally, they will go around this time. Even that one alone will give enough time for them to prepare for their WASSCE when their time is due. But we also know we have a new curriculum, those in second year now. So in 2027, they will be writing. It will help us to know whether things are going well or not. Teachers are already sacrificing in spite of the circumstances in which we find ourselves. Let's even look at the way we write our examination. Everything is not about pen and paper, and bring in reforms.
President Mahama blamed the poor performance of the West African Senior School Certificate examination candidates to years of neglect of basic education.
It is mind-boggling that with the same teachers, the same factors in play, just from one batch to another, one batch, does so disastrously. And so we need to get to the bottom of it. But it also emphasizes the issue of foundational learning. One of the major things that has taken place in the last several years is the neglect of basic education. It is that level that prepares the child for secondary and tertiary education. And once you don't get that level right, you will just send the child through a conveyor belt like a factory. And when it comes out at the end, it will be picked out by quality control and said that this one did not do well.
Vice President Imani Africa, Kofi Bento, says Ghana must step back from political debates and confront the real issues weakening the country's education system. Speaking on key points, Kofi Bento said the current situation demands bipartisan approach, especially as recent exam outcomes reflect deeper structural problems.
Things have really gone down. One of the central issues we raised in our time, and I'm being careful because I don't want to sound as if we didn't like free teachers. Yeah. We're saying if we are not careful, it will damage the quality. And we are seeing that now. That's why people with 14 can write their name. Then you have a situation where cheating has become systemic. Schools are organizing and these things are happening. And then education policy has not been coherent. This person comes and does this, that person comes and does that. We're experimenting with the kids. We need to pull back and really say that, look, there are areas where we should do little or no politics. Let us have a bipartisan agreement about how we should process our education.
Executive Director of the Africa EduWatch, Kofi Asare, said cheating in examinations has now become an organized activity.
We've gone beyond one person looking for a ball, It's not a micro issue. In the schools that it happens because it is properly organized. I know of a school in OT where the chief and elders and the youth association ganged up against the headmaster.
Wow.
In 2019. They did a demonstration that the DCE and the education director removed the headmaster because he didn't allow them to cheat during the WASSCE. So when they were not removing him, then they ganged up, came to the school. So national security put out information and then they had to evacuate the head teacher.
Co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, Adam Senanu says the issues emerging from the 2025 WASSCE results show that no real efforts are being made to address the issues.
Perhaps no real effort is being made by those who are accountable to make sure we address these things. And that's why people like our friend here are so important. I don't know how many people are paying attention to the kind of advice being given the council to deal with some of these things. It's a shame, because if this next generation are the ones you're expecting to come and lead you, I live with that.
English language recorded the highest pass rate, with 69% of candidates scoring between A1 and C6. The head of public relations at WAEC, John Kapi, has attributed the sharp decline in core mathematics in the 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination WASSCE to factors including students' inability to represent mathematical information in diagrams, constructing cumulative frequency tables, among others. It is hoped that when the final chief examiner's report on the cause of the decline is ready, stakeholders will take action to safeguard the examination integrity.
Still on education, but I'm taking you to Qatar. President John Dramani Mahama has reiterated the need for domestic resource mobilization to support education, stating that although international financing remains helpful, raising sustainable funding locally is the most effective path. Speaking at the 2025 Doha Forum in Qatar, he said international partnership should complement, not replace, national responsibility, arguing that resilient education systems are built on stable, homegrown fiscal foundation. Take a listen.
International resource mobilization for education is important, but more important is domestic resource mobilization. Ghana has performed well in terms of its budgetary allocation to education because at a point in time we realized that education was the key sector, to Ghana's progress and development. And so as a nation, we took a decision that we will all contribute on everything we purchase 2.5%, a value-added tax. That goes into what we call the Ghana Education Trust Fund. And so that fund alone is able to mobilize sufficient revenue to almost hit the 20% mark. And so additional allocation from the national budget makes us easily overcome the 20% target. And so domestic mobilization is important. Of course, we're getting some support from USAID and all that. But, I mean, we should recognize the fact that I wish His Excellency Kwekete well in their replenishment, but the reality is that that kind of resource is dwindling. And I was an ambassador at the last Gavi replenishment. The target was for 11 billion. They did well. They were able to raise 9 billion. But I'm just telling you, don't be too optimistic. The world of today does not have the kind of funding, and the mood is not there to fund these kinds of programs. And so I believe that while we rely on boosting education in these developed countries, through these kinds of mechanisms, we must look at mechanisms locally that enable us to contribute to our own children's education.
Well, let's still stay on the Doha 2025 forum, and the president says Ghana must adapt its agricultural practices to the new climate realities by expanding aggregation infrastructure and reducing dependence on rainfall.
And so Africa still has some of the most extensive arable lands, but that are not yet being put to productive use. Unfortunately, there's an intersection of what I just talked about and climate change. And so, for instance, the year before last, I have a farm that is about 400 hectares. And we grow soybean, we grow yellow maize, mostly for the poultry industry. We planted, and the crops came out very beautifully, nicely. And just at the critical time, the rain stopped for 10 weeks. And I just watched the crops wilt. And so we need to adapt our agricultural practices to the new reality. And that means that we must put more land under irrigation. poor farmers are not going to be able to afford the kind of cost it takes to put land under irrigation. So that's where government comes in. And that's why my government has embarked on a very, ambitious program of introducing irrigation, but not just any irrigation that is appropriate and affordable to the farmer. And so, for instance, if you go put some huge pumps connected to the national electricity grid, the farmers cannot pay the tariffs for pumping that water. So more solar water pumps, improved seeds, good extension advice, and especially developing the agribusiness sector, because it's not enough to ask the farmers to produce. You need to have an offtake for their production. And if
you're just tuned in, you're watching Weekend Central here on TV3. In more news this afternoon, the Vice President, Professor Nana Jino-Pokwa-Jimon, has urged medical professionals to be emphatic towards patients and the people they serve. She asked them to eschew personal comfort over their duty to serve even in deprived communities. The Vice President was speaking at the 10th congregation of the Accra College of Medicine in Accra.
As the global landscape of healthcare evolves, shaped by even pandemics, digital medicine, ethical dilemmas, the next decade of ACM's story must be painted with bold strokes of research and innovation, technological advancement, international collaboration, and ethical visionary leadership rooted in service, all of which you started already. I just want to encourage you to go even further. I remind you that the privilege of your training comes with a duty to serve, not just where it is easiest, but where you are most needed. Many of our communities still face serious gaps in healthcare access, and those best equipped to help must prioritize the duty they have chosen over personal convenience. You are entering a profession built on service, courage, and equity. Let your choices reflect not just your ambitions, but your commitment to the oath you have taken. That is, to go where suffering is, to heal where healing is scarce, and to honor the trust Ghana has placed in your hands. Remember that every patient you meet deserves your respect. Treat them with empathy. Carry the AGM values of integrity, leadership, innovation, passion, community service, and heart power as your guide.
And now the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NAMOS, has conducted a sweeping operation in the Suaman Dadieso district, where the team uncovered a sprawling illicit mining network believed to be linked to foreign actors. And 31-member NAMOS task force stormed the Kwaminat, Lante, and Swabop operational zones late Friday morning, pushing through thick forest cover and operating until well past nightfall. Within hours, the team unearthed an extensive illegal mining concession concealed deep within vegetation along the Bia River. Acting on this critical lead, operatives tracked and apprehended 9 Chinese nationals, all males, and escorted them to multiple sites for on-ground corroboration of their involvement. All these allocations, officers documented degraded sections of the Bia River and dismantled makeshift mining structures that have served as accommodation and processing shelters. And now, for decades, passion has drawn many residents of Achim Jadim into farming. But in recent times, inadequate inputs and the growing threat of illegal mining are undermining their potential.
Brim Central Municipality in the Eastern Region is one of Ghana's rich agricultural belt, with inhabitants predominantly engaged in farming. Achim Jadim in the Brim Central Municipality of the Eastern Region is known for its cassava and cocoa production. Their crops help sustain households, and the output plays a vital role in boosting Ghana's gross domestic product, thereby supporting overall economic stability. Yet, the challenges continue to mount for these farmers. I met Francis Appiah, a farmer at Achimjade. He can no longer expand his cocoa and palm plantation as illegal mining activities have taken over portions of arable land. Access to farmland in the area has become a persistent struggle.
Lands for
cocoa have been taken over by galamsey. I had 20 acres of land, but some portion has been taken off. Another for palm plantation. Because of galamsey, I could do only 5. Meanwhile, I could have done more than that. Francis Appiah is happy about the recent increase in cocoa prices to 3,600, but he's worried that without land and the intensive demands of the cocoa sector, the impact will be limited. The cocoa prices is okay, but it is capital intensive. For some of Kwabena Owusu, poor roads, outdated farming technology, and difficulties in assessing input are further reducing productivity.
Once a supply.
Government needs to support us with a lot of inputs. Our roads, we hope they will be fixed before the next election. The future of farming in Achimjade in the Brim Central Municipality of the Eastern Region hangs in the balance as these challenges intensify. For farmers to continue earning a livelihood and growing crops to feed not only the region but all of Ghana, traditional leaders, local assembly, and the government, which holds state authority, must take action to protect and preserve.
While still on illegal mining, the Minerals Development Fund has embarked on a massive sensitization drive against illegal mining. Some media personalities, politicians, and influencers join security agencies to work and promote a greener environment in the Ashanti region.
Ashanti region is one of the illegal mining-prone areas in Ghana. Arable lands dissipate, forest belt defiled, water bodies contaminated. Environmental experts have even identified heavy poisoning metal like mercury and a dangerous chemical like cyanide found in most of these illegal mining areas. The Minerals Development Fund, since June this year, has embarked on field monitoring to expose the people behind this illicit mineral extraction. It has been a dangerous operation. Nonetheless, the administrator has maintained the president's commitment to ending illegal mining. On Saturday, thousands joined an anti-galamsey street walk to promote responsible mining and a greener environment. Media personalities, politicians, influencers, and security agencies joined the Mineral Development Fund Administrator, Dr. Hannah Louisa Bisukote, in the 8-kilometer walk.
What motivated the initiative is the attempt in establishing the vision of President John Dramani Mahama for a greener Ghana and a greener future, for a good environment, for a responsible mining, and for the safety of our communities.
Renowned media personality Kwame Edinkra calls for a non-partisan approach in the fight against illegal mining.
It's not a match of CPP, it's not a match of NDC, it is not a match of NPP. It is a match for Ghana. It is a match to green Ghana.
Well, before we part company, ECOWAS has reacted to the recent Benin coup d'etat, and their statement reads, ECOWAS Commission has received with consentment report of an attempted military takeover in the Republic of Benin, and ECOWAS strongly condemns this unconstitutional move that represents a subversion of the will of the people of Benin. ECOWAS calls for the full respect of the Constitution of Benin and salutes the efforts of the government and the Republican Army in bringing the situation under control. ECOWAS holds the leaders of the plot both individually and collectively responsible for any loss to life and property occasioned by their action. ECOWAS will support the government and the people in all forms necessary, including the deployment of the regional standby force to defend the constitution and the territorial integrity of Benin. This was signed in Abuja on the 7th of December 2025 by the ECOWAS Commission. Well, we're going for a very first commercial break. We're back with more news. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority's proposed new number plate systems sparked mixed reaction among stakeholders in Kumasi. While the DVLA says the upgrade plates will enhance security and streamline vehicle identification, some stakeholders are worried about the cost.
The rollout of Ghana's redesigned number plate system is part of a national reform, one that the DVLA says will modernize how vehicles are tracked and verified across the country. At a stakeholder engagement in Kumasi, officials explained the enhanced security features expected to curb fraud and improve authenticity during road checks.
In order to facilitate and have a smooth transition, we intend registering the unregistered vehicles as well as vehicles of government institutions and agencies from January 2026 to April 2026. When we are done with that arrangement, then we will start registering or re-registering the existing vehicles. And that will be from April 2026 to 31st of December 2027.
For some stakeholders, the new system, they believe, adds credibility to vehicle sales and protect buyers. But others say the mandatory 2-year validation of the number plates will impose extra financial pressure on car owners.
We really appreciate what they are bringing on board, the new RFID systems that are going to help us track vehicle locations and then sometimes identify which vehicles are creating the nuisance on the road.
We should be careful to introduce system which going to force people to pay money.
The National Road Safety Authority is hopeful the new system will help sanitize Ghana's roads and reduce identity-related violations.
Sometimes people cause crashes and then you can't trace where they are. You can't even find them to bring them to book. This system is going to make sure that even if you're going to give your car to somebody, you are going to make sure the person is one qualified, to the person is responsible. Because if the person is not responsible and wouldn't take responsibility for their actions, they are going to bring cost to you, the owner.
The DVLA plans to continue to engage the public as the new system prepares to roll out in January 2026.
Away from the DVLA, the headmistress of the Sekondi School for the Deaf, Regina Silfi, has called for increased support following the breakdown of the school's assessment center, which conducts initial hearing examinations for students across the Western and Western North regions. She made the appeal during a visit by the former Minister for Information and current board chairman of the Ghana Gas Company Limited, Kofi Totobi-Kwache, who has pledged continued support for the school.
Established in October 1971 with just 17 students, the Sekondi School for the Deaf has played a critical role in educating children with hearing impairment. Despite this vital contribution and a current population exceeding 300 students, the school has operated for years with severe logistical constraints, including deteriorating infrastructure and the lack of a school bus. Speaking during a visit by the board chairman of the Ghana National Gas Company Limited, Kofi Totobi-Kwache, headmistress Regina Silfi mentioned several urgent challenges like unreliable water supply, a critical shortage of classroom furniture, and a broken down assessment center. Because of the current situation of the center, which serves the entire Western and Western North regions for initial student year examinations, prospective students are compelled to travel to the central region for testing. Financial constraints have also forced the kitchen to abandon the gas facility and now rely on wood scraps for cooking.
We have assessment center that assess the children's year when they come in for admission, and it serves Western region and Western North. All the machines have broken down. So when they come, we either tell them to go to Ethiopia Kwanta or Cape Coast. Now we don't even open it at all. We've appealed to a lot of people, NGOs, individuals, to come and support us. Because it's a special school, we need more staff, especially teachers, to be on campus to supervise our children during the daytime, especially in the night when they come for therapy.
Meanwhile, former Minister for Information and current board chairman of the Ghana National Gas Company Limited, Kofi Totobi Kwache, has donated an industrial photocopier to replace the school's broken one and commissioned a corn mill machine, as well as a cash donation with a promise to sustain his support, while calling on society to also come on board.
Beyond today's presentation, we will stay in touch and be of continuous help to the school, because these children are as much ours as they are of the parents who gave birth to them. To you, the teachers, we say a big thank you. What you do here is a great sacrifice.
In a related development, the Member of Parliament for the Sama constituency and Minister for Fisheries, Emilia Atta, has pledged to ensure the Sekondi School for the Deaf benefit from the 2026 budget allocation for special schools.
Those of you who paid attention to the 2026 budget that was read, there's a whole allocation being made now for schools such as these. And if I am there as your representative, na waricha, there's no way I will change your hand. So I will get my own, so that we'll bring here to support the school.
Irama Smith, TV3 News.
Still on education, but in the capital, President John Dramani Mahama has directed Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund, to release funds for the construction of 2 boarding facilities and staff accommodation at the John Evans Watermill Senior High School in the Kumfi Otium. The directive follows a TV3 expose highlighting critical infrastructural challenges at the facility.
3 months ago, TV3 aired a report detailing the struggles of John Evans Watermill Senior High School constructed a decade ago, but still grappling with major infrastructural deficits. The school currently operates without a wall, leaving students vulnerable to intruders and heightening security concerns. Even more troubling is the absence of a boarding facility, forcing many students to commute nearly 6 kilometers every day. Following the expose, President John Dramani Mahama has directed GET Fund to release the necessary funds for the construction of 2 dormitory blocks. Part of the funding will also go into building staff accommodation and improving the school's administration block. The school's only vehicle, a 2016 pickup truck, has broken down, further hampering administrative work. Meanwhile, the science laboratory requires additional equipment to meet modern standards. To mark its 10th anniversary, the school held a debate to appeal for more government support. Headmaster of the school, Atu Davis, highlighted the urgent need for a fully equipped ICT laboratory. The current facility has only 7 computers, 4 of which are functional.
Closely linked to these challenges is the strain on our administrative and academic work due to lack of office and ICT equipment. We have no risograph or photocopier, which forces us to depend on neighboring schools for printing examination papers. This creates serious logistical challenges every semester. Our entire administration currently relies on one aging computer that has served for more than 10 years and is now barely functioning.
The Member of Parliament for the area, Otinel Ekokwenu, assured that he will work to secure adequate financial support for the school.
Just after the man after whom this school is named remains one of the finest leaders this nation has ever known. To the hard-working teachers, I salute you. Your dedication is the heartbeat of this institution and continues to show off in the best that we are yet to see and continue to see in this school. We thank you for shaping destinies and molding future leaders.
A presidential staffer at the office of the Vice President, Professor Nana Jenopokwajiman Kakrayali, reiterated the Vice President's commitment to improving the school environment.
The development project for which we cut sword on 4th November 2025 will be completed within a record time of 12 months. And these are not minor additions. They are transformative investments. They include a fully furnished 3-bedroom accommodation for the headmaster, a modern boys' dormitory, a modern girls' dormitory, an ultra-modern library and computer laboratory. a multipurpose dining hall, and a state-of-the-art administration block.
Other speakers emphasized the need to preserve the legacy of the late former president, Professor John Evans Atta Mills. In a related development, the Professor Nana Jenopokwa Jiman's Foundation has pledged to donate a bus to the school to support teachers and students.
This is Weekend Central. We're going for a quick commercial break. We're back with more news. Stay with us.
This Sunday on Hot Issues.
The only way we can fight this abuse is when all stakeholders sit down and we strengthen the collaboration and partnership.
What would you say is your biggest challenge when it comes to tackling the issue of GBV in the country?
Sometimes, at the heat of the period, they will report and then you start the case. Once the case management commences, then family heads, traditional leaders, religious leaders, and other opinion leaders get involved, and then you have to truncate.
With social media now, are you able to protect victims?
That's a tough one too.
What really must somebody do if they think they should benefit from LEAP?
It's data driven. If the assessment is done and then you don't qualify, it will be difficult to put you on board.
The Disability Act. To what extent have we implemented it since it was passed?
The implementation has not been 100%. The only way we can fight this abuse is when all stakeholders sit down and we strengthen the collaboration and partnership.
What would you say is your biggest challenge when it comes to tackling the issue of GBV in the country?
Sometimes at the heat of the period, they will report and then you start the case. Once the case management commences, then family heads, traditional leaders, religious leaders, and other opinion leaders get involved, and then you have to truncate.
With social media now, are you able to protect victims?
That's a tough one too.
What really must somebody do if they think they should benefit from LEAP?
It's data driven. If the assessment is done and then you don't qualify, it will be difficult to put you on board.
The Disability Act. To what extent have we implemented it since it was passed?
The implementation has not been 100%.
Well, let's know what you make of stories that I've aired so far. We are active on Facebook as TV3 Ghana. Hopefully, your comments will be read and shared to the rest of the world. Now, government has been urged to swiftly implement the rural posting allowance and improve infrastructure in deprived communities to curb the rising rate of teacher attrition. Across many rural basic schools, staffing remains inadequate. Here's a report by Claude Kumi Abisa.
At Evia Krum DA Basic School in the Doma West District, the entire kindergarten to JHS system is being run by just 5 teachers. Headmaster of the school, Abraham Dongzagla, says the shortages are already taking a toll on people's learning outcomes. He noted academic performance is only average and continues to be threatened by the persistent lack of teachers.
In fact, we are 5 teachers in all, but out of the 5 is only 1 teacher who is staying in the community. All of us commute from Krankwanta. Last year, 4 service personnel were posted to our school. They came to endorse their forms. They only told me that they were going to prepare and then come back. Then we didn't know what happened. Later, we learned that they went and sought for reposting and then went somewhere. And I'm sure it's as a result of where they were supposed to be accommodated. There is no activity that is organized by GES in the district that we don't partake, be it quiz, be it sports, be it culture. We have been participating, and then we are also getting some awards for that.
He believes that he completed teachers' quotas to support the school.
Most of the time, even if you have money,
The school.
most of the time, even if you have money and you want to rent, it's so difficult to even identify a place to rent. It is not my pocket money, it is the MP share. Pocket money, it is the MP share of government's allocation to the MPs that we use to complete the structure. And I think we are going to do more. I'm so motivated looking at how happy the teachers are. I can only do more than what we have done. So we are determined to go to other places as well.
We are thankful to the Honorable MP. Something like this, I'm sure anybody, any teacher posted here, at least upon seeing this structure, at least would like to stay and help.
Teacher unions, however, maintain that without full government commitment to the rural allowance policy, the situation in underserved communities will remain critical. Claude Kumi Ebisa, TV3 News, Ewia Krum, Doma West.
If you're a huge fan of Yao Sapon and the Asumafo, then this very news will hit you very hard. The league songstress, Tiwa, has been confirmed dead. May her soul rest in perfect peace. And also, right after this very bulletin, What Issues is at 1 with Kemini Amono and the Gender Minister, Agnasa Momolate. Thanks for watching. It's always a pleasure coming your way. Good afternoon.